Hello, welcome back to Big Mouth, and welcome to my review of last night's Doctor Who, Rosa. Wow. This episode was on another level. It was unbelievable. And I tell you what, a little thing that I noticed is the American accents were so much better than I've seen in New Who before. For example, the Daleks of Manhattan, which we don't really have to talk about that episode, do we? But it was fabulous. I mean, the opening scene when you see Rosa go on the bus, and let me be clear here, I've heard of Rosa Parks before, but I didn't know what she did to make her famous. But before the episode, I found out about her and I knew. But imagine going on a bus and the seats have got black, white. That moment's extremely compelling. And you see that, what she does in that bit, and then she's told to go at the back, where all the black passengers are, and then he shuts the doors and he leaves without her. It gives you an insight in how things were back then, because to be clear again, you're talking about America, a country that used to have black slaves. Black people were slaves. And those attitudes haven't disappeared in America. There's places and states in America that are still very racist. And even though the episode didn't really touch on that, I thought it was great for everyone to see. Obviously, there's going to be people who have certain opinions on life who are not going to like this episode, who are going to say it was wrong, it was too on the nose. I don't think there's anything wrong with it being on the nose. It was fabulous. It really worked. So let's talk about this new character, Krasko. Is it Krasko? Where's my notes? Krasko. I think it's Krasko because I want to get the name right. Krasko, right. I liked him. In fact, I loved him because he reminded me of the evil Leaper in Quantum Leap, if anyone used to watch Quantum Leap. And I love this concept of a character going through time, trying to change things for the worse, while you've got the Doctor who's trying to keep things on track, sometimes change little things that won't hurt kind of history and stuff like that. But then you've got this guy who was in some kind of intergalactic prison, who's been released, who has the same vortex manipulator as Captain Jack Harkness. Wow. That creation by RTD kind of stuck in, didn't it? Which is brilliant. Listen, I thought he was really good, and it's obvious this is going to be some kind of recurring villain for the Doctor, and I definitely think she needs one, seeing it looks like they don't really want to keep on using the Master all the time, which is a shame because the Master's great. But it's good to create other villains, and I think Krasko is really good. And as I say, I think we're going to see a hell of a lot more of him, and I think that's a good thing. So I really liked him. And all of us complaining that there wasn't enough Yaz in the other two episodes, loads of Yaz in this episode, which is brilliant. And she really worked in the episode. And then you had Ryan. And we knew he was going to be very prominent in this episode, but he really worked with how they got him working. He's really been the most prominent of the new companions, again, which is very interesting. So it kind of makes you wonder what Chibbers is up to here with these three companions. And I think I said it on last week's review, I think we'll definitely lose one. I think they'll definitely kill one off. And there's actually a little theory right now that maybe Graham's cancer might come back. And obviously that would be very tragic and sad. That could be one way that they could... I mean, if anyone's going to go, it's going to be the older guy, isn't it? You couldn't see them getting rid of Yaz or Ryan. So look, it's going to be very interesting how all this works out. Because Graham did say in the opening episode, it should have been me who died. I had cancer. So very interesting stuff. We'll see how this plays out. No question about it. This is a very different Doctor Who. No question about it. And as I keep on saying, different isn't bad. In fact, different is very good, because for the past 3 weeks when I'm on Twitter, the reaction to these episodes has been so monumentally positive. And we needed this. We needed this after Stephen Moffat's and Peter Capaldi's final season, because it didn't work for the audience. The audience went away. They were down to 4 million viewers. It was dark days for Doctor Who, really, and this is why the BBC insisted on bringing in Chibnall, because he is a man who could kind of come in with his confidence and do things his way. The extra audience that's in, I think they were attracted because of this female Doctor thing. The hype and the press and the media attention from that really brought them on board for the first episode. Also because Jodie was on Broadchurch and he played a prominent character, and that was a massive show. That again said, yeah, well, we've seen what she can do. The woman can act. Let's go watch her. Let's give her a chance. And I think that's what's really, really, really worked for them, big time. But going back to last night's episode, there were some great bits in the hotel room when Graham tries to put his arm around the Doctor and she's like, that was absolutely brilliant. I really enjoyed that. And Graham's just, I think people love Graham. He probably is everyone's favourite companion. And I think if he does die, I think we're going to be devastated. But it'll be a good devastation. It'll be an emotional kind of payback for the fans as well. But as I say, we really don't know how this season is going to work out. Maybe Krasgo does something, and somehow Ryan's grandmother doesn't die, and maybe Graham does instead. Interesting theory. And I just literally come up with that because, as you guys know, I never do notes. Never. So, as we get along the episode, it's obvious that Krasgo's trying to change things, and the Doctor is meeting him head on. I love their face-to-face kind of good character versus bad character. Very, very interesting. And as I say, I can't wait to find out more, where he's from, his past. And I'm sure Chibbers is really going to explore this character. The actor playing Rosa Parks was absolutely fantastic. As I say, the American accents in this episode were so good. But you did really believe that she's Rosa Parks, and she was this brave woman. It is amazing that the real Rosa Parks did what she did, to go on that bus and stay on the seat for whites and refuse to get up and get arrested. Anything could happen to her. She could have got the shit kicked out of her. Let's be honest. She was clearly a very, very brave woman. And people are calling this an important episode. I don't know. I don't think I like that term. It's an important episode. I think it's important that young people are educated in human history. I think it's great. I think also what's very interesting is I think New Who's always kind of more focused on English history, which for me is too imperialistic and it bores the hell out of me. But when you're doing something that's more kind of historic in another country, but what Rosa Parks did affected every country in the world. Now, as they mentioned on the show, it didn't cure racism, but it certainly changed the people in the power structure's mentality towards black people and how they were treated. Interesting how Yaz was being called a Mexican. I don't know how to take that. I don't know if they were doing it for laughs or they were just showing how ignorant people were back there. I think it's a bit of both. I don't know how I feel about it because even Ryan called her a Mexican, didn't he? So it was kind of funny, interesting. It kind of worked for the entertainment value. I don't know if they should have done it or not, but certainly it really worked. But what can I say? Jodie Whittaker. She is really becoming the Doctor in record time. She's really grabbing this by the metal, and it's been fabulous. 3 episodes in, and people are seeing her as the Doctor. It's when you come in as a creator, I think, and as I say, and I've said this before so many times, I believe that Chibbers saw no one else in this role but Jodie Whittaker. I think this is why it was a female, because that's who he wanted. I think he obviously wanted a female Doctor, but I think that's the female he wanted. He'd worked with her. He was confident she could work. He kind of saw her as the Doctor. And it's working. 3 episodes in, people are very pleased with the show. I know there's some people saying this and saying that Chibbers can't do sci-fi. Well, I mean, it's an interesting concept, isn't it? There hasn't been a great deal of sci-fi. There's been little, because he's not going in that direction. So I don't think it's necessarily that he can't do sci-fi. I just feel that that's not what he's interested in. That's not what he wants to bring to the show. He does want to bring this educational element. He does want to bring this kind of drama and character development into it, more than it being a gee whiz science fiction show. And I think this is what he's moving Doctor Who towards. Now, whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. I mean, I think that I love sci-fi, but Doctor Who, for its history, hasn't always been that sci-fi. I mean, obviously about an alien who travels in space and time, that's kind of sci-fi enough as it is. So what he's doing is he's bringing raw elements into it. He's doing what he knows what to do. And I think it's working for a mass audience, because if you go totally sci-fi, then the nerds like me and you like it, but then the mainstream audience fall by the wayside. You do it like this, and you make it about the relationships between the Doctor and her new friends, about Rosa Parks. I mean, that's really appealing to the audience. And I think we are at a time now where people are less tolerant of hatred. And there's a lot of opinions and different sides of that right now, where all intolerance is not being looked at favourably, where in the past in human history it was like, well, people have the right to say what they want, and now it's no. You shouldn't be intolerant. Everyone should be positive. No one should hate anyone. But unfortunately, we're human beings, and we all have a little bit of hate in our hearts. Unfortunately, I grew up Greek Cypriot kid, Greek Cypriot parents. I remember walking down the road one day and these guys just shouting, saying really horrible that I won't say on YouTube because the video will probably be shut down. And we don't want that. So, as I say, I wouldn't say this is an important episode in the case that it's going to change anything or change attitudes. Maybe it will. Maybe a couple of people who are slightly racist might sit there and go, do you know what? Oh my God, what did these people have to go through? Terrible, I can't be like that anymore. Maybe. So in that aspect, maybe it is an important episode. But, as I say, calling it an important episode, I think is a bit over the top. And, you know, a bit arrogant, really. So I think we shouldn't get too carried away. But certainly, this was an episode that, wow, you know, I can't criticise this episode. It was perfectly done. And the music finally was a lot more louder and brash. The emotional music, a lot more louder and brash. I preferred that because, is it Segan? I think Segon's music in the past two episodes has been a lot more quieter. And it's just been kind of withdrawn, and I know a lot of people like that. But I like my incidental composed music. I want to be able to hear it because I love it. I think it's a great talent. It's a great art form, and it really does help set the mood of an episode. So the music, really liked it last night, and I think it was great for Ryan to meet Martin Luther King as well. That was interesting. I'm not convinced that I would say, yeah, that's Martin Luther King, because for me, my imagination is someone who spoke so passionately like Luther King did. I'm just they should have made the character be a bit more outspoken, speak a bit, but they didn't do that. They just wanted Ryan to meet him because obviously Ryan was very happy to meet him. Obviously, his grandmother taught him about all these things, which is great. His grandmother is still a big influence in his life, in his heart, and in his mind. So, yeah, brilliant. And if we're going to... I'm a bit concerned about next week's episode. They're back home. It's about spiders. I hope we don't get bored because we just had such a high. And we're going home already. Incidentally, I think, was it episode 4 that Rose went back home after going with the Doctor? I think it was episode 4 and 5. Was when the Slitheen were first introduced. Well, it's a very interesting. We know we're not getting two-parters this year. Obviously, the companions, the Doctor's new friends, will carry on travelling with her after next week's episode. It'll be interesting to see what takes them to that decision. 8.5 out of 10. This was a brilliant episode, well produced, well directed, well written, well acted, and I was compelled throughout the whole episode, basically. And that final sequence when Rosa's on the bus and the Doctor tells her new friends, we can't do anything, we've got to let this play out, you could see the pain within the companions and the Doctor, and it was great just to see them reacting and not speaking. Absolutely beautiful. So it was an absolutely brilliant episode, and I enjoyed it. And if you haven't seen it and you're watching this video, please go and watch it, because it was an awesome episode. Please subscribe, like or dislike, don't mind, just interact.